of the UK's vaccine rollouts means that more than a quarter of all adults have now received a first dose. The government's plan currently is only to vaccinate those aged
first dose.
But now a new clinical
Funny how they call it that, innit? We used to call it a dose if you got crabs or something.
Children up to
years ago.
240 participants, some as young as 6, will receive the vaccine, with others receiving a control meningitis.
Not that I've ever had them.
Well, Sky's Laura Bundock joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Laura. So why are children being given the vaccine when we're told that actually children rarely suffer from it in a big way?
Nobody suffered from it. I don't know anyone who has suffered from it.
Were developed, they were tested on adults, so we just have no idea what will happen when you give children.
Don't think it exists.
Make assumptions, but of course, until we know for certain, it remains an unknown. So the whole idea is that by
judging by the
vaccine, it'll let us understand
news, constant news, it seems to be more about promoting the jab.
It's safe to give the children, younger children, a vaccine.
The only way out of the lockdown is if you all get vaccinated.
To give them the vaccine. We've known right from the start pretty much that children are less likely to develop very severe symptoms.
And that itself you have to question, don't you?
Very, very mild symptoms. Coronavirus
what it's about.
Them in the same way it does older people. But there is this hope.
We have our suspicions, don't we, what it's about?
Vaccination program, and that's for a couple of reasons, really, because there are obviously some very vulnerable children who would benefit
vulnerable
from the vaccine,
children.
but also we don't yet know the role of children when it comes to transmission. We know children are probably much less likely to pick up.
Living's vulnerable, isn't it? Just existing on this earth, vulnerable.
Further, and that has implications because
from the morning you get up to, it is from the time you get up. Anything could happen in your life.
Children will be given the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. A control group will get a different vaccine, and it'll be children.
You could get up, be half awake, and fall downstairs and break your neck.
To try and, as I say,
we're all at risk of danger constantly. So you're vulnerable, aren't you, in a way?
It has been mentioned that perhaps, if it's successful, children could start receiving the vaccine by the end of the year.
Okay, Laura, thank you. Well, a final push is underway to ensure everyone in the top 4 priority groups comes forward for a COVID-19 vaccine. The UK
no, thank you. Stick it where the sun doesn't shine.
15 million people by Monday to people aged.
I don't wish to contract with you over the vaccine.
Staff, healthcare workers, and the clinically vulnerable. Well, ministers are making a fresh bid today to tackle misinformation in some groups and ensure that target is achieved.
Misinformation.
As vaccinators continue to battle the virus, the numbers
got an issue with people talking truth, haven't they?
The infection rate has shrunk to a level last seen.
Big issue with it.
And jab uptake has been extremely high among priority vulnerable groups.
Makes me sick this to see all. Look at that Hancock there.
A fresh plea to anyone who
special move just for the news.
Join over 14 million people who've already been vaccinated.
As if he does that even with his own family.
What I'd say is, please come forward if you haven't already got an appointment to be jabbed, because the more people who get this
Buckingham, CCG, Stoke, Mandeville.
Particularly targeted.
Tell you something, I'm gutted. I wish I knew he was in Stoke. It's not too far from me. I'd have gone there and I'd love to have shouted what I feel on my mind to Matt Hancock, and I would have done.
We all have to take care of each other, so they're telling us that it's safe, so we will.
I'm fine with it. It's one of those things I think I should get, but I'm not too sure whether it'll work or not.
Uptake for the vaccine has exceeded government expectations, but no one can afford to be complacent. A doctor here told me that they were in a race against time to protect this community. He says messaging from GPs and local healthcare providers is vital in continuing to build trust in the rollout.
People should be questioning now. You've lived with the so-called virus now for 12 months. Those who've got through 12 months without anything, think about it. You've survived 12 months now with no issues whatsoever. Are you really going to keep up for a vaccine?
Well, Milena Veselinovic is at a vaccination centre at Epsom Downs.
That should give you the clue that you don't need one.
Good morning, Jonathan. Well, there's been a steady stream of people coming here since 8 a.m. when this vaccine...
Brainwashing going on there again. Mask on the face.
To grab about 1,000 people here today.
What's she got to come on TV with a mask on her face for?
White screens, people are waiting.
We've got to enforce it to people.
Waiting to be called called in to get
Constantly.
the vaccine. Once they've been
But all them was told before she even got filming. Can you just put your mask on, BBC here?
And staff here say they also have a very good system to make sure there's no leftover vaccines at the end of the day. Once it gets to about
Someone needs grab this vaccine and hand it to a medical professor, someone who will take a look in it and find out and dissect it and see exactly what's in it.
To come for an early appointment, they say this works extremely well. Staff is also really quite keen to encourage anyone who's got their invitation letter but has been hesitant.
Found some information yesterday about the them nasal swabs, what they push to back of your brain.
With that first vaccine. Now,
very shocking information.
To here today, have been feeling rather jubilant. They've praised the system. They said it's been really smooth. They said they're happy to at least get on the way to getting a semblance of normality in the future. There's a couple who's looking forward to looking after their grandchildren again at some point in the future, and a man who's been shielding, who can just go out in the world with less fear from now on. So
less fear.
Really positive atmosphere here in Epsom.
Mind you, news has been putting fear of God up. You're on it from day one. So it's been one big fear campaign.
Okay, Milena, thank you. Well, the Health Secretary,
I don't wake up living with fear from this so-called virus because I don't believe it exists. So I'm not in fear of it. I'm just in fear of the global reset, what's going to go on, changing everyone's way of life.
Most adults to have had the jab by September, Rob, but it would appear they're not expecting to arrive.
That's what's bothering me, because I don't want to live like China.
Saying in the Daily Telegraph,
people have been calling China for years. What a disgrace and draconian that the Chinese people are living in. Now people are going to accept it here, because that's the future.
The way this is handled by everyone,
if people don't stand up and do something,
it may be more akin to how seasonal flu is handled, so it may keep coming back, especially in winters, and putting pressure on the NHS. But also Matt Hancock talking about treatments and how that will play a part in, he hopes, by the end of the year, turning COVID-19 into a treatable disease. I think with all of the success in the vaccine rollout programme, that sort of eclipsed some of the successes the UK has had in trialling and getting new drugs to people in hospitals, which drastically reduced the amount of people that die of this disease and reduce the number of people that have to go into intensive care.
Stop vaccinating
the
people.
government clearly sees that as crucial to part of its long-term plan of managing this virus in people for whom the vaccine doesn't work. It's putting extra money into accelerating phase 1 trials for new drugs. So optimistic news that the Health Secretary hopes...
I thought they're supposed to have done trials, but now and then they're banging on it doesn't work.
COVID-19 is not going anywhere fast.
Rob, the papers seem pretty optimistic as well this morning. There's some talk of
the public human guinea pigs, hey?
Being back by April.
Yeah, 9 days now until Boris Johnson lays out the planned freezing lockdown. And I think a degree of speculation in the papers was always to be expected. A number of papers...
It's either he's not going to ease lockdown, or he will, and they'll come up with something new again. It's the public's fault and shut us in another lockdown. They'll come up with some other reason and blame the public for it to push us in another lockdown. Oh, it's because everyone else, all those who anti-vaxxers who didn't get a vaccine, they're the spreaders. We're going to have to go back in lockdown.
In terms of what we can read,
guarantee they'll blame public.
Though, I think there's a degree that is predictable. You can expect outdoor socialising and exercise to be eased first after schools, of course. And the noises do suggest they are optimistic about at least some pupils getting back on the 8th of March. But of course, this is all set next to quite cautious noises that are coming out from the scientists that advise government. They want a very slow and steady release, step by step, with gaps between the various stages, so that they are able to analyse the data and see how each stage impacts on infections. There's also warnings that some of the lower level interventions, social distancing, masks, could be around from autumn into winter. Of course, the challenge
could be. You've just heard it there, folks. There's no could be, will be.
And he needs to balance it with some voices.
Take the hint, what it was just there.
That maybe want to go a good deal faster than the scientists are advising.
When they tell you
Okay, Rob, thank you.
There is no
very
could,
much. The
it will be.
Of course, which I'm sure will come up tomorrow on Sophie Ridge on Sunday. Sophie will be joined by the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, and the First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford. You can catch that, as always, from 8:30 here on Sky.
They already said, didn't they, we could be going in lockdown again for
likely to vote later today
Christmas.
on whether to convict or acquit Donald Trump in his impeachment trial over last month's Capitol riots. The former president's lawyers.
This is an absolute scam, this, isn't it, about Trump?
Hatred against him.
It's clear what's happened.
Used before the insurrection.
Someone with half a brain could figure this out.
Rhetoric. Adam Parsons reports.
They're all totally against him. The state versus Trump. That's what it is.
For this.
They ushered all them people in the bloody building. Police stood by it. I even saw a video of a copper waving him in.
The Vice President and his family being rushed from a hiding place as the mob called for him to be hanged. Republican Senator Mitt Romney being told to run away. But was all this really caused by the words of one man?
No, it wasn't.
Democrats have alleged that after years of inflammatory rhetoric by Donald Trump, this was the moment that turned a protest into a riot.
We fight like hell.
It looks to me like it's all been staged. Send Antifa in there.
It's absurd to blame him for the attack.
Some of the randomers took opportunity to go in as well.
Now before the Senate.
And then they had the smoking gun to blame Trump for it all.
Of political vengeance.
Because they're getting all out hell bent, aren't they?
Political rhetoric that
to impeach him.
Indistinguishable from the language that has been used by people across the political spectrum for hundreds of years.
This is a fight fighting. I say
they mocked the idea that the word fight could be so dangerous, with a long video of Democrats using exactly the same word.
Fight of their lives.
We are in this fight for our lives. We cannot ever give up fighting.
But Democrat prosecutors here are unrepentant in their caustic criticism of the former president.
And he has at every opportunity encouraged and cultivated actual violence by these groups. Yes, he has encouraged actual violence, not just the word fight.
Mr. Trump has been in Florida.
He's encouraged actual violence. Hang on, it was it who went to Iraq? UK and America. In that violence, dropping bombs on people. Total hypocrites, aren't they? They stand up there and about Trump causing actual violence just because some people stormed a building, forgetting their own country went over Iraq's slaughtering millions of men, women and children. That's worse than a violent act, isn't it? That?
If he were, it would be extraordinary.
They're so hypocritical and forget the forget the past, don't they?
Let's take a look at some of the other stories making news this morning.